9
Evening,
million
Council.
light years.
It's 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Welcome to the regular meeting of the Elmer Council for Wednesday, October the 16th. Notice the absence. We'll begin with a moment of reflection and respect. Okay, thank you. Item 3, confirmation of the agenda resolution.
That council adopts the agenda for the meeting of October 16th, 2024.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Van Raes. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? There are no delegations or public meetings. Item 6, consent agenda resolution.
That the October 16th, 2024 consent agenda be received for information, and that council approves the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on October 2nd, 2024.
Very well. You see that the consent agenda includes items 6.1 to 6.3. Deputy Mayor Barber.
No, just moving, Your Worship.
Second.
Okay. Can move it. Seconded by Councillor Oslach. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.1, the Public Works Coordinator, the tender award for 2000 flushing resolution.
That report operations 23-24 entitled Tender Award 2024 Sewer Flushing Camera Program be received for information, and that council accept the bid by Badger in the amount of $36,777, excluding HST, for the 2024 flushing camera and non-emergency procedures for the Town of Elmer sanitary and storm sewer in accordance with the tender documents, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement with Badger following the terms and conditions in the tender documents.
And seconder, Councillor Chapman, Deputy Mayor Barber. Discussion by council. Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 7.2, Director of Legislative Services, Downtown Facade Improvement Resolution.
That report clerk 33-24 regarding downtown facade improvement grant application, community improvement plan be received for information, and that council approve a grant to Robin Kixey for 50% of the project cost.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Oslach, Councillor Van Raes. Discussion by council. Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just out of curiosity, this is, I believe, the second or the third grant application that we've approved as council for this specific request. How much, is there a specific account that's dedicated to downtown facade improvement grant? And if so, how much is sitting in that account, just out of curiosity?
Sure. So the specific account was removed in a past budget. When we've had the interest this year, there wasn't funds available for it. So it's been drawing from the council initiatives reserve. In the 2025 budget, there is $10,000 allocated towards the program. This year, with this issuance, we'll have $6,200 issued.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the positive side, it's good to see that some of the merchants are taking advantage of incentives to help beautify the downtown core.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried, thank you. 7.3, Director of Legislative Services, Property Standards. We have a resolution.
That report clerk 34-24 regarding property standards, cleaning and clearing bylaw review be received for information, and that council directs staff to prepare final versions of the bylaw, appeals committee bylaw, the property standards bylaw, and the cleaning and clearing bylaw for consideration in January 2025.
Seconder, Councillor Desrosiers, Councillor Chapman.
Yes, thank you. Yes, through the mayor and to council, thank you for considering this report tonight. So there is a lot of information in this report. It's 3 separate bylaws proposed. So some key changes here are clarifying landowner responsibilities over boulevards within our cleaning and clearing bylaw, aligning the property standards bylaw with the building code, as well as adoption of a terms of reference for the new Property Standards Committee. Just some really brief backgrounds. The Property Standards Bylaw previously was the only bylaw in this area up until 2019. It dates back to 1997 and did require some updates to kind of match the building code. In 2019, the town did adopt a cleaning and clearing bylaw, which specifically regulates more of the lawn aspect and the clearing aspect of kind of open spaces on properties. So we are recommending some minor changes there to just clarify responsibility over boulevard spaces immediately next to properties. Finally, the Property Standards Committee has been in the Property Standards Bylaw since 1997. It's never had a terms of reference. We did want to simply establish that, as well as have council make appointments to the committee if it is ever needed to hear appeals of property standards orders. Finally, the report does discuss the town's approach to property standards issues in terms of our enforcement approach. In the last year, from October to October, we received and responded to 57 property standards complaints. The town does take a complaint-driven approach. When the town is made aware of matters and complaints are received, they are addressed. There is analysis of that within the report for council's consideration. And all of these matters are before council for input and in front of the public for input as well. If there is anything you would like us to include, consider, or change before January 2025, we're open to that feedback. And that is my presentation.
Thank you. Excuse me. Councillor Oslach.
Yes, Your Worship. I would like to submit a motion to an addendum that staff be further directed to prepare a report on the conclusion of provisions to allow naturalized lawns.
Okay. I don't know that we need a separate motion for this.
We do.
It's for input, so your input is that staff would take a look at that particular part.
Right.
Do you want to expand on that at all?
Well, naturalized nut lawns and boulevards create pollinators for bees and insects, are all native plants. You can specify as native, which native plants. They save water. Native plants are all drought resistance, and they save lawnmowers, two-cycle lawnmowers, which is a pollution hazard, and they're beneficial in the long run. They require less maintenance and less fertilizer and less watering.
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you. All right. I don't know what that noise was, but thank you.
It was my pager.
Okay, Thank you. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. Further to Councillor Oslach's suggestion for a staff report along naturalized lawns, are there any any municipalities in the area that have such? And secondly, clarification. Boulevard is the space between the sidewalk and the road, is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I can answer that. Hamilton has naturalized lawns and boulevards. Guelph and London is looking into it.
Okay. Have anything to add?
Yeah, and through the mayor to Deputy Mayor Barber, I think Tilsonburg as well has provisions for naturalized lawns, which we can look at. And then the specific question about boulevards, it would be any land that's on the town's road allowance. So land between the sidewalk and the road, as well as maybe a foot of land off the sidewalk as well towards the property.
Oh, on the inside of the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Seeing none, I'll call the question with, the notes that you have on what Councilor Oslach has suggested. So, did you want to read that again?
Certainly. That report clerk 34-24 respecting property standards and the cleaning and clearing bylaw review be received for information, and that council direct staff to prepare a final version of the bylaw, appeals committee bylaw, the property standards bylaw, the cleaning and clearing bylaw for consideration in January 2025, and that staff be further directed to include consideration of naturalized lawns. And that was moved by Councillor DeRosier and Councillor Chapman.
Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 7.4, Director of Emergency Services, resolution.
That report fire 09-24 be received for information, and that bylaw 69-24 being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency management response plan, and bylaw 70-24 being a bylaw to appoint a community emergency management coordinator, CEMC, for the town of Elmer be considered for adoption to meet requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act.
Mover and seconder, Councilor DeRosier, Deputy Mayor Barber. Chief McComb.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, members of council. So the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act requires that the municipality council appoints the members for the Emergency Control Group and the Program Committee, as well as the CEMC through a bylaw. This report is to address some housekeeping issues that have been brought forward from our Emergency Management Field Officer to assist us in reaching our 2024 compliance. Discussions at our last Emergency Control Group meeting also included making the Emergency Control Group and the Program Committee, including the same members, and make that team member smaller. This is in efforts to streamline the decision and scheduling process while we respect staff's time devoted to emergency management meetings and all other functions to be carried out by this group. With that being said, bylaw 6924 being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and the emergency response plan addresses the needs for the committee members and the sizing of them. Whereas bylaw 7024 being a bylaw to adapt the community emergency management coordinator, the CMC for the town of Elmer now identifies that the Elmer Fire Chief will be assigned to that role. Council should consider this to help us approach the 2024 deadline for compliance. And with that, I will answer any questions that anybody would have for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, have any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Just a comment, Your Worship. It's, from my perspective, it's good to see the leadership of the Emergency Control Group being within the hands of the people in Elmer to benefit the people of Elmer.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 7.5, CAO, Joint Water Board Representation Resolution.
That report CAO 49-24 respecting joint water board representation be received as information, and that council direct the mayor to sign and provide the attached letter to the Elmer Area Secondary Water Board.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers, Councilor Chapman. Who's doing the report? Rob?
Thank you, Your Worship. As outlined in the report, the voting representation on the Elmer Area Secondary Water Supply System is really not reflective of the usership or allocation. Elmer itself is underrepresented on the board. This is different than the primary water board, which considers representation based on the overall interest. When the province transferred ownership of those water lines down to the various boards, there were some inconsistencies among the transfer orders. And perhaps, I'm sure Deputy Mayor Barber could speak to this as well from his time on the primary board. Over the years, many of those boards have taken steps to correct those things that needed to be corrected. And we're suggesting that the Elmer Area Secondary Water Supply should correct the voting representation to better align with representation, and which would also align with the representation on the primary board. So it's kind of a housekeeping thing, we believe.
Great, thank you. So, no comments or questions? All those in favor? That's carried, thank you. New business and matters of urgency. Reading of bylaws and proceedings.
That council gives 3 readings to and approves. Bylaw 58-24 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held at the regular council meeting on October 2nd, 2024. Bylaw 69-24 being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency response plan and to meet other requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. And bylaw 70-24 being a bylaw to appoint a community emergency management coordinator for the town of Elmer.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Van Raes and Councilor Chapman. Any discussion on any of those? Seeing none, all those in favor? Is carried. Are there any inquiries by members? Are there any statements and committee reports by member? Councilor Oslach.
Your Worship, I have 3 statements tonight. The staff and Public Works have planted replacement trees on downtown, and they're reusing permanent papers, and they have an elaborate watering system around them. We shouldn't replace the trees next 10 years. So the staff and I planted 40 perennials at Lions Park in the end of September, and we plan on planting more perennials in Lions Park next spring. And this is not concerning council, and I have Comet C23A3 Atlas coming up tonight. It's in the southwest. It's between Venus and Arcturus, a bright star in the northern hemisphere. Comes around every 80,000 years. So it's a bright comet. You can see it by the naked eye with good pair of binoculars. I have mapped distributed. It's on the 16th. It's right there, and it's all the month of October. It will become higher in the month of October, and I'll pass this around. And it's for the month of October. And the month of October is, on the 31st, it'll gradually fade. It comes around 80,000 years. It's part of the Oort cloud. So I know I won't be allowed around 80,000 years from now, so.
Where you're around the first place.
Yeah, well, I'm going out to, that's why I have a heady sweater on and long johns. I'm going out tomorrow. Tonight, Queen of Peace is going to good horizon. There are no trees. The neighbors always shut their lights off at dusk, and there's nobody to bother me. They're all dead.
But you're right, Councilor, it's like, it has nothing to do with the council.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
Do you have another one?
This is information only.
Right, informational.
Yeah.
You have something else, Arthur?
The comet is it's the brightest comet in decades. So
Sure, take a look between Venus and Arcturus.
Arcturus. The brightest star in the.
You had a third comment? You said you had three, or did I miss one?
Well, I have only three comets. Comets. I have the trees on the boulevard, and these staff planning
Oh, yes.
on Lions Park, and the comet.
All right.
That's three.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone else? I have no report. Item 12. Notice of motion. No notice of motion. We don't have a closed meeting tonight. So the next item is adjournment. Mover and seconder. Moved by Councilor Desrosiers, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barber. All those in favor? It is carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.